Hey, what's going on guys? This is BekBrace, and in this video I will guide you through the fundamentals of the Kotlin programming language. Kotlin is a general-purpose statically typed language that has become extremely popular in the last few years, designed quite simply as a better alternative to Java. Like Java, it compiles to bytecode that runs on the Java virtual machine, but Kotlin provides more concise syntax and language features. Kotlin can be used on both the client and the server, which means the code can be run either on the front-end side or the back-end side, in the cloud somewhere on a server, which receives requests from the client and sends the responses back to the client. Out of 7.3 billion smartphones worldwide, Kotlin now is widely used for Android development to write apps for the 2.5 billion devices running the Android operating system. Kotlin has been created in 2011 by JetBrains company, which is very well known for its IDEs such as IntelliJ, PyCharm, and DataGrip, to name a few. And the first stable release was in 2016. And in 2019, Google has named Kotlin the preferred language for Android development over Java. Kotlin is an example of a programming language that allows us to communicate with computers. And as you know, computers only understand binary, zeros and ones. So over the years, we have created many programming languages such as C, Basic, C#, Python, Julia, Scala, Rust, Go, Java, or JavaScript. And since Kotlin was created much more recently, it has taken the lessons from the earlier languages to make something that is both powerful and easy to use. To write Kotlin code, I'm going to use IntelliJ, which you can download for free on jetbrains.com/idea/download. You can choose your operating system, whether you're running on Windows, macOS, or Linux. You can download the community version for Java virtual machine and Android development, and the installation of IntelliJ is very easy and very straightforward. You're going just to click next, 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 and the installation will be done in seconds. This video will not discuss in depth everything about the Kotlin language, but anyway, I'm planning to create a series for the fundamentals plus some projects using the Android Studio. This is IntelliJ, and on the right side here we're going to write our code. On the left side we have all our files open, and we're going to start by how to print a simple hello world on the console. One of the great features about Kotlin is how compact the code is. So for example, in Java, if you want to print hello world, you would have to write a class. Inside the class you will have to type public static void main, inside curly braces system.out.println hello world. In Kotlin, we don't have to do all of that. We just have a main function, and to create a function in Kotlin, you start by the word fun, which stands for function, and then the name main. It should be main. Everything can be called within this function. So within this main function, we're going to type println, and ln stands for line next. So print line next. And inside our parentheses, we're going to type hello world. And to run this function, you will come here on that green arrow, run hello world kt. And there we go. You can see the result on the right side of the screen. Hello world is printed here. Of course, we can do system.out.println, and it will do the same thing. Also, this function is public. In Kotlin, we can omit all of that. So if I will run this again, or if you like to use the shortcuts, it's Control, Alt, and F10. And you can see that it did the same thing. It has printed hello world to us. And just to show you the difference between println and print, you can type, of course, print here. So line 2, you will get line 2 below hello world because hello world was printed with ln, and just line 2 is print. So if I'm going to print line 3 without the print ln, you will find both words are just stuck together on one line. One way to avoid this is to just escape to the next line. That will do the same thing as print ln, but this is not preferable, as Kotlin provides us with the print ln statement, and now you will see that print ln will put line 2 on a separate line. Before leaving hello world, let me just show you the comment. The comment is by just 2 forward slash. This is a one line comment. And if you want multiple lines of comments, it starts by /, 2 asterisks, and /. And here you can type, this is line 1, this is line 2, many comments. Now let's go ahead and move to variables. So a variable is a store of value, a box that can contain several data types. And in Kotlin, the variables should have a name and a data type. You can declare a variable without explicitly stating its type. This is why Kotlin is called a statically typed programming language. So to declare any variable in Kotlin, we have 2 words for that. Keyword val, and val stands for value, and val is the equivalent of const in JavaScript. This is a keyword to declare a variable that cannot be changed. So let's say that we have the keyword val, and I want the name of my variable. I will call it my name, for example. And then I need to specify the data type of that variable. So we have many data types as in any programming language. So we have strings, booleans, integers, and so on. So my name is going to be a string, and I'm going to give it a value of Bek. So we have a variable with the declaration of the word val, which means that this variable cannot be changed. Another keyword that we can use to declare a variable is var. And var is the equivalent of let in JavaScript, which means that we can alter its value, or we can change its value. So we can type my age, and the data type for that is integer, or just int, right? And we can give it the value of 40, an integer. And notice that it's in blue to differentiate between a string and an integer. One of the great features of Kotlin is that we don't have to set the variable explicitly to string, integer, double, long, boolean, or whatever. That's because Kotlin can detect the type of your variable's value automatically. And this great feature in Kotlin is called type inference. And you can print that, of course. So my name, also my age. All right, and by the way, as I said about the type inference, you can omit the int and the string simply, and let's run that again, and you will get the same result. Just let's put println here. Also, you can print different values. So we have different data types, such as, so we said we have string, integer, we have also doubles, we have longs, we have booleans, we have floats. So for instance, if I would like to show the maximum value of an integer, we can assign the value of this variable, huge int and tiny int, and printing them. And to print them, we can print that very easy. We can say maximum value of integer, huge int. Here we can do the same with the minimum, but I will do it differently. So minimum, and I will use what we call string interpolation. So I will insert the $sign followed by the variable name. In our case, it's tiny int. All right, so maximum value of integer is 214 blah blah blah. Minimum value of integer is -214 blah blah blah. Here it's complaining, saying string concatenation can be converted to template. So we can convert string into template, and it shows you that this is the preferred way to do through the string interpolation. And also, if I want to check the same on long data type, we can do the same thing. And we got 2 more data types, which are double and float. All right, neat. You get the maximum value of integer, the biggest long, the biggest double, and the biggest float. All right, now let's look at operators, which allow us to perform operations on those variables. So for example, we can combine 2 strings into a longer string with a plus sign, like we did with the concatenation. So let me create 2 variables, a name and surname, and a third variable called full name. and we can concatenate both name and surname together. And if I will print that, we get Britney Spears, but just one word. To fix that, we can add just an empty space. And this indeed has fixed the problem. And there are different binary operators for numbers 10 and 5. We can add, multiply, subtract, divide, or find the remainder after the division with this % sign that would be 0 in this case. Let's talk a bit more about strings. Strings are a sequence of characters, and there are a bunch of useful things you can do with them. For example, retrieving a character in the series by indexing into the string. Like this in Kotlin, like most other programming languages, we start counting at 0. So it's called zero indexing programming language. So the first character here is C. This will be at the position 0. And the second character H will be at the position 1 in the output. We can see the first two letters of checkoff. You can also check if a string is empty using a method called isEmpty, which returns a boolean, true or false value. Or even we can get the length of a string, which is an integer, by using the .length property. Now let's run the code. So we get the same results, C and H as 0 and 1 indexes of the word checkoff. And then we get false, which is a boolean value, because writer indeed is not an empty string. And in the last line, we get number 7, which is the length of the word checkoff. Let's move on to conditionals, which is a way to execute certain code depending on a condition. So if statement is an example of flow control, which will evaluate whether a statement is true or false. So let's have, for instance, a variable called my age, which is equal to 17. And then I will check if my age is more than or equal to 18, I want to print a statement says you can smoke. Otherwise, or the keyword else, I want to print a line says you cannot smoke yet. Now let's execute that code. And indeed we get the result you cannot smoke yet as my age is equal to 17. So what if we will change that age to 19, for example? We get a different result. You can smoke. So you see how easy it is to write conditionals in Kotlin. Now let's move to collections. We often want to hold a bunch of variables at once instead of defining them one at a time. For that we can use collections. For example, instead of having a separate variable here for each of my favorite city name, we can have one variable which is a list of strings containing all of city names. I will call that variable cities, and then I will use a special keyword called list_of. And then I will enter inside it all of the names that I have assigned to each of the variables city 1, 2, 3, and 4. Instead, I will have only one variable called cities, which is a list of different values. Remember that Kotlin is 0 indexed. So Alexandria is at index 0, Barcelona index 1, and Toronto at index 2. So if I want to print Alexandria, for example, I will say print ln, and then I will take the cities variable with index 0. In this case, we will get the word Alexandria printed to us. By default, collections in Kotlin are immutable, which means we can't add or remove elements to or from the list. If we want to change the contents, we must declare the list as a mutable list by changing the declaration. So here, instead of list_of, we will say mutable list_of. And you can see that IntelliJ has suggested to us. So just hit tab, and inside here we want the output to be string. But really you can omit that, it will do the same thing. So now cities variable is a mutable list. We can add a new content to that list. So let's say, for example, that we want to add a new city, which is, let's say Rome. And now let's print the value of the cities list. Now we have Rome has been added to our list. So what if I want to delete one city? Let's say that we want to delete Barcelona, and Barcelona is number 1 in the list. So Alexandria starts with 0, 1 Barcelona, 2 Toronto, and so on. So to do that, we'll say cities.remove, and we're going to remove cities with 1 index. Now let's go ahead and print cities after the changes. Now you see the two lists were printed on the same line. Let me just add print ln to the word print in order to print the list or the new list of cities on a new line. And there you go. First, we have added Rome, and then we have deleted Barcelona. And by the way, as I specified here that what we get inside here is a string and the output should be string too, if you will try to add an integer or any other data type, you will get a compile error. So let's say, for example, cities.add, and let's add number 10. And you can see immediately that this squiggly line, the integer literal does not conform to the expected type string. And to fix that problem, instead of typing string, you can type any. And in this case, this red line has disappeared and the cities will tolerate any other data type. So let's just print cities after the addition of number 10, and let's check that out. And there you go. You have Alexandria, Toronto, Berlin, Rome, and then number 10. Now let's move on to loops. It's really common to do something on every element in a collection. Like in the last example, we have seen the cities list. So we can actually print out each element in our list of city names. We can simply write for city in cities and then print each city on a separate line, of course. Okay, so we get Alexandria, Barcelona, Toronto, Berlin. Let's say, for example, that we want to execute something exactly 4 times. So to do that, simply we can say for I in 1 and then ... 4. And immediately you can see that IntelliJ has just made a division between 1 and 4. So we want 1 to 4 inclusive. We're going to print from 1 to 4. Let's run that. And as expected, an iteration from 1 through 4. If we want to print from 1 to the number before that maximum number, let's say from 1 to 5, but we don't want 5 to be printed. So we will do the same thing for I in 1, and then we can use the keyword until 4. Or let's make it 5. And here again you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, but this time because we had 5 as a maximum value in that loop. Now let's see the while loop. So let's say, for example, that I have an index and that index starts with 0, and I want to check out while index is less than the size of the cities list. I want to print the index that corresponds to each city. So 0 is the index of Alexandria, 1 is the index of Barcelona, and so on. And to do that simply, we can print a statement says that city at, again, we are using string interpolation, $index, index is, and inside curly braces, we're using interpolation again, cities with that index of that specific city. For each iteration, we're going to print the index and the name of the city. But we're not done yet. We need to increment the index by 1. And there we go. City at 0 index is Alexandria, 1 Barcelona, 2 Toronto, and 3 Berlin. Now let's talk a little bit about functions. Function, as in any other programming language, is code instruction to do something, where we can reuse it throughout the program, and this makes our code easier to read. So to create a function in Kotlin, as we have seen, we use the keyword fun followed by the function name. So let's say, for example, that I want to create a function that says say hello. And here I want to print just hello. And in order to invoke that function, we can call it within the main function, as expected. So if we want to give this function some input or argument, we can add the parameter name and type to the function signature. So let's try that. Let's actually say fun, say hello to someone. And here name is the argument and it's of type string. And then I will print hello, and I will use again string interpolation with name, but just let's have comma here. Now to invoke that function, we're going again to insert it inside the main function. And here we have one argument or one input, which is name of type string. So let's say, for example, John. Control Alt F10 and we get hello John. Let's create another function to add two numbers. And this will not print a statement. So let's create a function called add of type int. And this actually should return the addition of two integers, return 20 plus 30. And let's actually invoke that function here below. So to do that, I cannot just invoke it directly. I should include it in println statement. All right, and let's run that, Control Alt F10, and we will get 50. And in Kotlin, you can make things simpler. So as this is a simple function, we can omit the curly braces, we can delete return statement, and we can add equal sign. And now you have the add function only on one neat line. We also can add arguments. So fun divide, and inside here I will have x, and this is an integer, y also an integer, and the output also, you can omit this actually, but I like the input and the output to be explicitly stated. This allows anyone else who's working with your code to better understand what's going on. X divided by y. So let's actually invoke it down here below. And here I will use the println statement, and then I will invoke within the println statement our divide function. And we have two parameters, we have x and y. So let's set x to 100 and y to 50. Save that, Control Alt F10 or Control F5 directly. By the way, you can also set the visibility of functions to be private, so they can be accessed from other classes or files, because all of these functions actually are public, which means they are available to other classes or to other files in your whole application. To do that, simply you can add the keyword private before the function, and this will set the visibility of your function to be private instead of being public. The last thing in this video is the concept of null safety in Kotlin, and Kotlin's type system is aimed at eliminating the danger of null references. This is also known as the billion-dollar mistake. Null simply means having no value, and if a variable is allowed to have no value, then we need to update the type to include a question mark, like so. And this means simply that the variable data is a nullable string. So if there is data in your database, for example, then this variable would have a string value, but if no data, it would be null. So let's try to run this code, and we should get nothing, null, because indeed data is null. The important thing to remember here is that we can't call any methods on something which is null, and we have a couple of methods to get around this. The first way is to check if the variable is not null. And in the body of this if statement, we can now safely call any method we want. In this case, because we're setting data to null, we'll fail the check, which means when we run the program, we get an empty output. However, if we update data to be a string, students data completed, then we will get into the body of the if statement, println data.lowercase, and in this case, we will get students data completed printed in lowercase. The other way of doing this is to use shorthand for exactly this, which is the question mark dot operator right here. So we can use data question mark dot to uppercase, and this means we'll only call this method on this variable or this object if it's not null. Let's try it out. We can clearly see that we got now students data completed in both lowercase and uppercase. Alright, so that was pretty much the core fundamentals of Kotlin language. We've discovered the syntax of variables, operators, strings, conditionals, if statements, for loops, functions, and null safety. If you would like to see a full series of Kotlin to cover every aspect in detail in the language, and also real-life projects for Android app dev in Kotlin, please let me know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take it easy, guys.